Hello, my name is Michelle Herzog. I'm the History Social Science Consultant here at the Los Angeles County Office of Education and Director of the California Democracy School Civic Learning Initiative. I want to welcome you to Module 6 of this professional development series designed to provide educators with the knowledge, skills, and resources to implement high-quality civic learning in classrooms to prepare all students for college, career, and civic life in the 21st century. The entire series can be found at our website, www.lacoe.edu/California Democracy School. Now, Modules 1 and 2 focused on the urgent need for civic learning and provided an overview of the California Democracy School Initiative. We also described the 5 components of high-quality civic learning. The process begins with a civic inquiry about a public problem or issue, usually driven by student interests and teachers' curriculum goals. Module 3 focused on strategies to frame a civic inquiry. You can go and see that to get those tips. The second step is the investigation portion, which calls for students to investigate, research information regarding the issue they raised at their civic inquiry. You can learn how to facilitate that by looking at Module 4. So from there, armed with data and information from multiple perspectives and points of view about the issue, we want students to engage in civil dialogue to further explore the pro and con arguments of the causes of the problem raised and the impact of different solutions that might be raised. Now, there's a number of ways for students to do this. There's structured academic controversy, philosophical chairs, Socratic seminar, and many more. Now, today's broadcast, we're going to feature the use of philosophical chairs. And after students engage in dialogue such as this, they're charged to reach a conclusion. They might even find multiple conclusions to their issue. They begin to think about ways then to communicate and then respond to the issue. And finally, the exciting part, we want students to take informed action, to really engage in democratic practices to achieve long-term solutions to real-world problems. So let's back up a little. The objective of this Module 6 is to help you learn how to utilize the philosophical chairs approach to help students engage in civil dialogue about controversial issues. But before we look at some video, let's turn our attention now to 2 tools we created for your use: the California Democracy School Civic Inquiry and Investigation Rubric and a classroom observation tool we created. Now, they both have the same kind of content, but they're in different formats, and hopefully you'll find them useful to clarify what we mean by exemplary civic learning in each of those components. So take a moment now to download those tools so you can refer to them during this webcast module. So let's dig down a little and look carefully at the criteria for this phase for the exemplary civil dialogue. First of all, the dialogue, it's important that it value all points of view. We want the dialogue to be civil and respectful at all times. The purpose is to listen to different points of view with a respectful ear. It should reflect a great deal of preparation in advance from the facilitator, but also from the students themselves. A good civil dialogue should demonstrate a lot of use of academic language, and we're hearing a lot about that in the Common Core. This is a great opportunity to practice acquiring that language and utilizing it through speaking and listening. The dialogue should rely heavily on evidence from research that students have gathered and multiple sources. Again, another nod to the Common Core. Dialogues such as these are usually led by a facilitator, the teacher, but should primarily be delivered by the students themselves. Now, exemplary civil dialogue, such as what you're going to see, should allow adequate time for students to explore an idea before moving to another point. We don't want to see kids jumping from item and idea to idea. We want them to dig deeply and look at different ideas as they're presented orally. It should be intentionally designed to make everyone feel comfortable and safe to be able to express their views. It should prompt questions that are authentic and refer back to the previous points made, not all over the map. We want them to follow the stream of thinking and respond to those in intentional ways. Because we want, obviously, the dialogue to be monitored to keep that in straits, but also owned by all the students and the entire group involved. So we're going to see what philosophical chairs looks like in the classroom by observing Arturo Molina, who is a teacher at Pomona High School, as he guides his students through this process. Now, before we do, though, I want to take a moment to explain what philosophical chairs is so you'll know what it looks like when you see it on the tape. Like I said, it's a type of civil dialogue, not the only type, but it's a powerful type that ensures that respectful dialogue, mutual understandings, deep engagement into the subject matter, all the things we identified in our criteria just shared. Students should be given the statement prior to the activity, and you need to require kids to either agree, disagree, or remain neutral. We want them to take a stand, though you'll see we're going to allow them to change their positions as they hear new ideas. You can find the step-by-step directions for this in our resource section where you found the module. So participants, students, should be given the prompt well in advance and must be expected to fully explore both sides of the debate. All right? Don't just dig in and look for one point of view. We want them to investigate all the points of view. And an effective way to do this is to let them chart their ideas using a T-chart, a graphic organizer, some type of mechanism. So we want to get all those ideas out and in front of students before they enter into the dialogue. The inquiry to be addressed in this module that you're going to see by Mr. Molina's students is, should the government pass laws that make it more difficult for people to buy guns? It's a great question. And as we've said in earlier segments, you really want to try to frame your inquiry so it's neutral, not leading, kind of more open-ended, because then we know that will prompt more investigation at different points of view. Okay, but before we watch, I want you to see how Mr. Molina explains the rules and expectations for his students.
Number one person talks at a time. What that means is either one argument going from one side to another, or within having conversations within your groups, just one voice at a time. That way we can all be having one argument instead of different people having different conversations. Two, you are free to switch sides at any point in time. So if anybody makes a really good point, and you're like, dang, that was a good point, like you're free to go to the other side. Three, make sure to acknowledge the other person's argument. You know, a lot of people think debating is all about speaking, but half of it's listening, and we're practicing listening in here. So, you know, we've practiced it before, so acknowledge what they said and then say yours. So you can acknowledge the point that was said just before you or one from that somebody else said. And then lastly, speak in complete sentences and use your sentence starters.
It's really important for the teacher to set the ground rules and expectations ahead of time, as you saw him do. And from here, it's probably a good idea for the teacher to do a practice run, too, with the students. Maybe using a different topic, give them a chance to get comfortable with the process. So let's take a look at Mr. Molina's practice run. And here's the question he posed to students. Is soccer better than football? That's going to get some great ideas flowing.
Is soccer better than football? If you think yes, over here. If you think no, over here. Is soccer better than football? Yes? No? All right. So one thing we're going to practice, I know when we first started doing philosophical chairs, you would raise your hand, and I would point, and then you would wait for to get pointed at, and then you'll go. But we're going to take it a little further to the next level, and I'm just going to have you guys just control it yourself. So, but I will choose someone to start it off. Does anybody want to? All right, Nigel, go ahead.
Soccer is not better than football because it is not a full contact sport.
I understand that you said that it's not a full contact sport, but soccer has always been a tradition around the world, not only here in America, but in most of the continents around the whole planet. So a lot of people love that game, and that's a good reason why.
I understand that you believe that soccer has always been a traditional sport, but you know traditions die. And, well, football is just way more fun to watch. We got a Super Bowl and everything, and it's really fun. It's just a really nice time to have a really big get-together, and soccer's boring.
Going back to Nigel's statement, I understand that you say that soccer isn't a full contact sport. In my opinion, soccer is, because we are still putting in body against other players and still having contact with other players. And Marlene's statement, you said that traditions die and stuff. Well, that's kind of an opinion, not a fact, so.
All right, so I like the fact that you guys are using complete sentences. Don't forget that you do have that pink paper. There's other ways you can acknowledge other people's statements than I understand.
So you can really begin to see how the students are starting to get the hang of this. Giving them sentence starters like I like or I understand helps them kind of get the ball rolling. And we know that's a powerful approach for our English learners as well. You know, and I like how they're beginning to distinguish between facts and opinion. Did you see that, I hope? We want students to draw on actual evidence to support their claims. And I think we'll see more of that in the next portion, when students grapple with their civic inquiry. Should the government pass laws that make it more difficult for people to buy guns? It's a pretty heavy issue, as you can imagine.
I encourage everybody who hasn't spoken to speak. There are really no obstacles. Well, there is one big obstacle. We'll talk about it. We all have something to say because we've been doing research on this topic. We all have practice. We practice with these sentence starters, and we actually all did our own research. So the only obstacle really is timidness. Am I too shy? This and this and this. So I encourage you guys to step out of your bubble, do your thing. Remember, we go through the procedures, the rules. So Brian, can you press the right arrow, please? So here's our question, and it's pretty important to us given that we live in Pomona. San Bernardino is not too far away, and like a week and a half ago, we had that incident in San Bernardino with all like the shootings. And every time there's a mass shooting like that here in the United States, a debate that people have is it too easy for people to get those type of guns that people use for these mass shootings? Some people say, yes, it is too easy for people to get those guns, and the government should pass laws making it more difficult. Some people say no. So we're going to have the debate today. Should the government pass laws that make it more difficult for people to buy guns? If you think yes on this side, if you think no on this side. Wait, Anthony. All right, so remember, try your hardest to be talkative. Say something. No one's going to hate on you. No one's going to be mad. Just do your thing. So like I said, I'm trying my hardest to stay out of it. And I'll let you guys do your thing. So whoever wants to start it off, Sava, go ahead.
According to Bureau of Justice, the government should not make it more difficult for people to buy guns. To get guns, because either way, people will get guns from a friend, neighbor, or a family member.
I understand that you say that a person could get a gun from their neighbors or their friends, but according to Michael Plenty and Jennifer L. Truman, people don't usually use guns for protection. So this should make it legal.
Yeah, so I think to clarify what she's saying is a lot of people use the argument that the people should be allowed to buy guns without restriction because they use it for protection. But the fact that she stated was that studies show that people don't usually use guns for protection.
I understand that you say people don't use them for protection, but either way it goes, if it's for protection or just to have or just to shoot somebody, they're still gonna get the gun.
I understand that you think that having the laws would people can still get the guns no matter what, but at least deaths can be prevented even if it's a small number.
I understand that you believe that people aren't going to use it for protection, but either way it goes, they're going to get the gun. And yeah, that might keep being the argument, but whether they have it for protection or not, some people use it for hunting, and some people just feel better with it. So it doesn't really even matter. If they make the laws stronger, what's the point? It's the gun. It's not the gun committing the crime, it's the person. So there's no point in restricting people from getting them if they're not going to do anything, but others are, and that's someone else's fault. So why are you just going to blame a whole nation for a couple people's mistakes?
So I understand that you think it's the people that kill, that make the choices, but according to the FBI, there's more deaths due to guns when there's gun control laws. So when there's laws preventing people with guns, there's gonna be more deaths.
Well, according to the Center of Disease Control, the government shouldn't make it more harder for people to get guns because the studies show that most people die from heart diseases and tumors than more people get killed by guns.
So you can tell the students are really bringing up some excellent points on both sides, and they're using evidence from their research to back up their statements. I hope you can see, too, that the conversation is very respectful. So let's watch some more.
83 Americans die every day from firearms. U.S. has the highest rate of homicide rates each year in the United States. There are 3,000 deaths related to guns.
I acknowledge that you say that there's 83 deaths per day of people with guns, but that just goes back to the point where it says that health risks kill more people than guns actually do.
I understand that you think that health risks kill more people than guns do, but guns still kill a significant amount of people, and preventing that can still save lives rather than that.
Okay, so I understand that you're saying people die every day from like anything, but according to Jeffrey Vacola, armed civilians are unlikely to stop crimes and are more likely to make dangerous situations, including mass shootings, more deadly. So, for example, like in San Bernardino, those people shouldn't have been able to get like those type of weapons. They had like military weapons. I mean, they weren't just like handguns, like they had bombs, they had like thousands of bullets, everything. So they shouldn't have been able to like get those.
Well, I understand that you say that they got their guns from like the military and where did they get those, but obviously the law didn't stop them from getting the guns. Like, where did they get the guns from? They didn't just go to the store and get them.
I understand that you think that those guns were bought illegally, but they are actually bought legally, and that's why there should be more gun laws.
I understand your point saying that they were bought legally, but okay, even though the people that legitimately went and shot up the place, they did not buy them. So they still got them from somebody who bought them legally. So like, the point is, even if they make laws harder, the people who want specific guns, whether they're legal or not, they're still gonna find ways to get them.
From the streets, from another country, it doesn't matter. Everybody has homies. They're gonna find a way to get them regardless of the law. The law didn't stop this law, it's not gonna stop the next. They're still gonna get them.
So even though you say that the people who wanted the guns, they weren't the ones that bought them and they bought them or they got them from other people, making the laws more strict will still prevent those type of people from getting it. Because the other people bought the guns, yeah, but if we have harder laws, then it's gonna be harder for them to get the guns for other people because they still bought it legally. So if we have more laws, then it'll still be harder for them to get the gun. It doesn't matter who the person is.
You can also see that this topic is very personal for these young people. The shooting in San Bernardino had occurred less than 2 weeks before this exercise took place. And these students at Pomona High School live less than 20 minutes away from that incident. So that event was very fresh in their minds, as you can tell in the dialogue, the conversations they were having. Now at this point, we're going to see Mr. Molina remind students that they're free to change their positions. It's important that you provide those opportunities so that young people really understand and learn it's okay to change your mind on important topics based on new information you get about a topic. When people start digging their heels in so deep, they refuse to look at other points of view or even contemplate changing an opinion, that's problematic. And we need to give more opportunities for young people to appreciate that and practice that in the real world.
If anybody wants to switch, you have a switch in opinion, now's a good time, so think it through. And if anybody wants to switch, now's a good time.
From here, you can give students more time to bring up other points. Give them another opportunity to change those positions. So let's see how Mr. Molina now wraps things up.
Thank you, everybody, for participating in the discussion. You will have some homework. The purpose of the homework is to help you reflect on what we just heard and ultimately come up with a solid conclusion of how you feel about this topic after hearing everybody's opinion. So some of the questions that this sheet has are things like, who are the top 3 contributors to the discussion? What were some of the best points you heard? What are some things you agree with? What are some things that you don't disagree with? And there's one question, especially for those of you who didn't participate by, saying something, because everybody participated by listening, but not everybody participated by saying something. There's a question that says, what do you wish you would have said? And that question, along with the rest of the questions, is for me helps me realize that although you weren't participating by speaking, you were participating by listening. And like I said, after you reflect on this discussion we had today, hopefully you have a solid conclusion, like you have a solid stance on this issue. So once again, round of applause for everybody for participating.
What a great example. I really like the way he guided the discussion and let it be free-flowing. I hope it felt natural for you as well. And yet, you could tell there was a definite structure, format, and expectations to follow. So just to remind you, the goal of using philosophical chairs is to create the opportunity for students to voice their different points of view in a safe place based on the evidence they investigated and to hear from others so they can make an informed decision on the civic inquiry. It's okay to change your mind, but look at the other evidence that exists before you do that. It's wonderful to see how Mr. Molina captured the essence of that. And if you notice, it really doesn't take a lot of classroom time, but powerful results. Take a moment to reflect on what you've seen today about the use of philosophical chairs for facilitating dialogue in the classroom. Pause the video to contemplate these important questions. Can you see how students might benefit from this approach for facilitating dialogue using philosophical chairs? What challenges do you see are associated with implementing this technique in your classroom? What support will you need to implement philosophical chairs dialogue? It takes some planning, as you can tell. So, as we mentioned, civil dialogue is one of 5 components of a high-quality civic inquiry and investigation. In fact, many will argue it's probably one of the most important because it gives that space for young people to exchange ideas openly in a safe environment. Good practice to being engaged citizens. The other modules in the series go in depth on all the different components, so I hope you can find the time to engage with those too. You can find them all at our website at www.laco.edu/California Democracy School. So I appreciate the time you took to watch this module today and all you're doing to prepare our young people, that next generation, to be engaged, informed, responsible citizens. Thank you.